at 1 p.m. Make sure you're watching WoodwardSports.com for our new show, Chompin.
He shoots, he scores!
With four-time Stanley Cup champion Darren McCarty and Michael Gentry, Chompin is taking the Detroit hockey community and giving them a voice. Pros to Joes. You'll get the best Detroit hockey coverage around. Chompin' Saturdays, 1 p.m. on WoodwardSports.com.
What is going on out there? It must be a Saturday. Darren McCarty, better known as D-Mac, four-time Stanley Cup champion of your Detroit Red Wings here. Joined as always by my partner in crime, especially when it comes to the hockey scene. He covers the Detroit Red Wings for Woodward Sports. His name, Michael Gentry. Get to know it, get to love it. We're also here with our boy Spencer Raxter, working triple duties, doing whatever he can for the brand. Happy to have you guys here today. Yes, it is Chompin' Puck, episode number 2. Got a big show planned for you. Gonna, as I said before, bring in one of my close friends and also somebody who's done something historically, documentary-wise, that means so much to a lot of us in the hockey community, especially the Red Wing community. The Russian 5 documentary. Josh Riehl, the director, will be here to tell a little bit of his story. So, but before we get there, we got to always start off, Michael, with the hockey news, because our Red Wings,
they won again, D-Mac.
Fuego. You know, earlier, there was a chicken sandwich in the back, right? And somebody cut me off a piece and said it was from Dave's Hot Chicken. Shout out. And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
Took a bite. And then they said, oh, by the way, it's extra hot. That's how hot the Red Wings are right now. Like Dave's Hot Chicken, small plug. But what are they, 7-1? 6-1 in the last 7?
Yep.
We got to love it. Do we not? We got to love it. And now, where did you want to start? Did you want me to start with what do I think the big difference is? Why don't I start there?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good place to start.
Consistency. Right? What do I preach? Consistency. The number one thing is, what do you see with this team? They're not thinking. They're not thinking, they're doing. Right? They're doing, which means that what Derek Lalonde has preached this whole time since he's got here. And remember, this coach, first year, right? But sticking to the plan, preaching this 1-1-3. Now the guys are doing it, right? How do I know this? They're also doing little things like the PK is a lot better, right? The power play is a lot better, the face-offs, but they're blocking a lot of shots. They're giving shots from the outside. They're doing it as a team. Different guys are stepping up. Yes, Dylan Larkin, and I said it before, Chris Osgood said it the best, that he has put this team on his back. Right, and they've rallied around him.
100%.
But other guys have stepped up. Look at role players stepping up.
Suter.
Right, there you go. Your guy, Pi Suter. Hag with his first goal. You look at Rasmussen. Zadina gets on the board.
Cop last night. Cop 3-point night.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the road trip, and you look at, like you mentioned, Suter and stuff like that, and different guys stepped up. You had Dylan Larkin in Vancouver and stuff.
So
you can say hot.
So many.
You know what also is cool? Right? When you lose your best player, right? We saw in Washington, the team says, I don't care. We're going to rally and we're going to go out and win. That's huge too. That's a different level stuff. So a little bit on that, but where are you at, bro? What can I answer you on the hockey front on this Chompin' Puck Saturday?
Well, we talked about how every game means more as we go on. Every game, every win. What is it going to take for the Red Wings, and what is the key for them to beat a team like Tampa? This is a rivalry that's been brewing. You got Coach Lalonde switching spots with Blashill heading to Tampa and whatnot, and really dating back since the last time the Red Wings made the playoffs, this has been a rivalry, it almost seems like. And then you got the Dylan Larkin, kind of brewed it a little bit more. But what is the key to the success for the Red Wings to get another huge win at home and really just move on to Ottawa and, keep the momentum going?
You absolutely nailed it, right? Yes, it's been 7-1 for the last 8, but you're on to the next game, and it doesn't get any easier. And I would probably say Chicago, you could argue, but if there's a rivalry-ish that you have with not making the playoffs and 8 years or winning the series in 10 years, it might be Tampa.
Yeah.
And then you look intricately in the unit. What it tells me is that we're a smaller version of what Tampa is because the interchange. Last year, our head coach is now their assistant coach. Their assistant coach is our head coach. Steve Yzerman came from Tampa Bay, right, as a general manager and stuff. So systems are a lot alike. If you do it, they play a lot of the same game. That's where we want to be. They got 2 Stanley Cups. Just came off a finals loss. Right, so this is the measuring stick, and then it doesn't get easy because this is the next level. I said yesterday on Big D Energy, 11-1 here on Woodward Sports, small plug. Me and Spenny are part of that, so it makes sense. I said they're a double-A team playing pro teams, and I correct that. What I meant to say is we've been a double-A team, right? And I think we've stepped into the triple-A dome. We're not to the pros yet, but we are progressing, and it's consistency. So again, another test at home doesn't get any easier, but the confidence level. So the big things haven't changed. The leaders in this clubhouse have been, up front, Dylan Larkin and net, Billy Husso. Yeah. But you know what it is also too, Crack? You want the onion crack back? The culture that Steve brought in with the Sherratts and the Perrons, the Andrew Kopps, these true professionals. You not only hear it when the younger guys talk about learning how to be a professional, but these guys know how to weather the ship. So it's an absolute pleasure to watch, and yes, we should get excited. Now, you look at a graphic or whatever like that, you'll see where it might be in the wild card, might be out. You've given yourself a chance. We're not there yet. It's still tough sledding. Like you look at a great time. Like you said, let's not look too far ahead, but tonight they play Tampa. What do they have to do? They just have to consistent. Like I said, they're not worrying really. What I see too is they're successful because the other night against New York, right, was the best 60-minute game I've seen this team play. Right? They were never in jeopardy. They reminded me of our old teams where we knew that and it wasn't being cocky or arrogant, that we were just better, and we were playing well. And then when everybody's playing well on a talented team, it's just the system, and the system keeps rolling. So they've played through some adversity. What do they have to do, Michael? I'm going to say stay healthy. Right, because they're getting guys back, and you're seeing everything that Steve Eisen's been told you. And you've been seeing one thing that has been a problem throughout the season and past seasons is the Red Wings taking care of the leads. And this stretch of games, they've been doing really good at that. When they're ahead, they're taking care of the lead and whatnot. And like you said, the injuries, that's going to play a huge part. You want to stay healthy. And DMAC, they have some interesting decisions to make coming up to next week, the trade deadline, because you need to send someone down, you need to trade someone, you got to make room for Lucas Raymond, obviously coming off of IR. So who knows how they'll figure that out, what they'll do. Everyone's playing so well. They have some really tough decisions. Well, it is, and at the end of the day, what do I always preach? Hashtag Wiser Plan, right?
Yep, he knows, not us.
So it's a good problem to have.
Yep.
Champagne problems, I think they're called, right? But the whole thing is that this is what we're building, and the whole idea is whatever move or non-move is made, it's in the longer plan, and it's more to solidify for next year and moving forward, so that we make sure we're making the playoffs every year.
Yeah, 100%. If there was any move to make.
So here's the one stat I'm going to get out, and I haven't talked about this, but I'm going to give it out. This is a DMAC exclusive for Chompin Puck. Watch the goals against, right? And you watch how it's gone down and gone down and gone down. In the past 2-3 weeks, they've improved it by 10 goals. Yeah. Winning obviously does that, but playoff teams have to get into the positive for the most part. I'm not going to die on that hill, but right now they're -2, so they got to play well. Yeah. Now what you're looking to do to end this is the first game tonight is let's get at least 1 point. I could take 1 point against Tampa Bay, but we need that home ice advantage. So if you're watching this and you're going down there, please make a lot of noise and The boys need you.
Yeah. Or if you want to meet up with me and D-Mac before the game, type in the chat. Maybe we'll do a little meetup.
That won't happen.
Oh, yeah,
all my people will be either
not there
at the
tomorrow.
game
I'll be
or they're
there.
going to be at the Slapstick Comedy Tour out at Kickers in Canton. If you're watching this,
you're right.
and I'll see you there. Tell me, hey D-Mac, I watched Chompin' Puck today. All right, when we talk later
But
on.
if you're at
Thanks,
the game,
good plug, Mikey.
Yeah, if you're at the game, you can meet me if you want to. But we're gonna go to break here. When we're back, when we come back, we're joined by our very special guest. We're gonna dive right into it. But for now, we are gonna go to a word from Lady Jane's.
When it comes to making your haircut truly an experience, there's no better place than Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men. Come to any one of our 26 Metro Detroit locations for an award-winning haircut experience and qualify for a chance to win a down payment for your dream home up to $200,000. Our precision haircut and talented stylists will have you looking good, feeling good, and give you a chance to change your life forever. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
Can't get enough Woodward Sports content? Head over to woodwardsports.com right now for up-to-date sports articles and great entertainment news. We have the best writers, bloggers, and coverage all at your fingertips. Head to woodwardsports.com right now to experience all Woodward Sports has to offer.
Welcome back, Chompin' Puck, episode 2. Darren McCarty, Michael Gentry here, Woodward Sports Network. Spenmo Rocks running the ones and twos. And like I told everybody before, what I want to get out of what Chompin' Puck is, it's about the people, the community, and getting to know. So I thought of somebody that I could introduce you in my world and actually in your world too. And if you can see on the
You had it backwards.
I was hiding it from you. As you can see, it is the Russian 5. As we're talking about the poster, if you haven't seen it, the documentary right here, my great friend and the director of the project, Mr. Josh Riehl. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, before we get started and get the things out of the way, Josh brought 2 of these in. So, Michael, you said
Yes.
the posters
And the DVD.
and the DVDs.
I will be giving them away on Twitter.
We're going to give them away on Twitter. We're going to sign them, so that'll be a Twitter giveaway. Yep. What do they have to do? Stay tuned?
Yeah, no. I'll post it on Twitter. All you got to do is retweet the tweet and make sure you're following us, DMAC and myself, and then the Chompin' Puck Twitter. And then you will be eligible to win. I will draw the winner on the next episode. So if you tune in to the next episode,
we'll draw it next Saturday, and then we'll get that out. No, that's awesome. So thank you, Josh, and obviously we go back to we'll get there.
you guys go back.
Yeah, well, we go back, but first let's let you go back So I want to know, because you are a Michigan kid, but tell everybody a little bit of your backstory and how did you get from where you're from to directing the Russian 5?
Yeah, that's a great question. So,
thanks a lot.
As you said, I grew up here. I'm a Michigan kid. I think everyone who was a Michigan kid in the late '90s, mid '90s, we're all Red Wings fans, right? And following the team. And so, it was such a journey, to watch you guys win the cup. And then the tragedy that happened afterwards, it was profound, and it stuck with me. And I always wanted to be a filmmaker. And, that was going to be my thing. And, I had these big plans to go to NYU and go to the Spike Lee and Martin Scorsese's film school. And life had different plans for me. My first semester of community college here in Michigan, because I was trying to save a couple bucks there. I was in a car accident. And I cracked my spine, and I did not really know how bad it was. And, after a year or so, it turned out it was pretty bad, and I started losing feeling down my legs and all that good stuff. And so, to make a long story short, I ended up having 3 surgeries over the course of the next 6 years. It kind of derailed my life in a lot of ways. And between surgeries 2 and 3, I was pretty down, as anyone that age would be. And my grandparents for Christmas, and I should say, I wore hockey jerseys a lot because I had this brace to kind of help support the spine after surgery.
So it was like the halo, body halo, sort of something that you see, not Bubble Boy, but Halo, Body Boy.
No, just like almost like a corset, But it was
like one of those
plastic.
ones that we see. That how many buckles did it have?
I think 3.
Yeah, so you couldn't move anywhere.
Yeah, but I wore hockey jerseys over it all the time. And so, I had all the vintage, throwback jerseys, and my grandparents, for Christmas got me a Konstantinov jersey. And I was really low at that point, and it was this wake up moment of like, man, I'm being a little baby right here, like what I'm going through, sure, it sucks, but what Vladdy went through is just infinitely, worse. And he didn't give up, and he had just, I think it was around that time when he did the Yzerman jersey retirement, and Vladdy came out, and so I was like, man, he's still pushing. Like, he didn't let this get him down.
That would be?
Oh, I mean, this was like probably 03, 04-ish,
Okay.
Just
to get the time frame of how this comes together.
Yeah. The last surgery I had was 07.
Okay.
And before this was a little bit before that, and then this was really the okay, well, I'm going to go through this last surgery, and I'm going to get better, and I'm going to go follow my dream and go to film school and start making movies. And so, that jersey was like, this little, those little moments along the way in life where you don't really realize at the time until you look back that, that was a profound moment where the trajectory kind of put me in where I am here today. And so, I went to the University of Texas in Austin to get out of the cold. They have a great film program down there. And, I was fortunate enough to fall in and was basically apprenticing with this amazing director, Al Reiner, who, Al's first movie was an Academy Award nominated documentary For All Mankind about the Apollo moon missions. And he wrote Apollo 13, and he was just like, he knew his shit. And so...
Big leaguer.
Yeah, and I got the fortunate opportunity to work under him. And, so we were working on this film about criminal justice in Texas, which is its own other story. And we're driving from Houston to Dallas, and, we're just shooting the shit in the car. And Al asked me, what's the story you want to tell for your first feature as a documentary director? Because I was producing at that time and learning how to direct from him. And I had made shorts, and I had a project that, I had thrown all my energy into. It was like my thesis project at school. But, to elevate to that next level, what's that project? And I was like, man, there's a story. And I started telling the story of the Russian Five and how, what they went through, the Wings went through to get Sergei and Vladdy and Kazi, and then adding Slava and Igor to the mix. And then you think you're going to win, but Colorado, and then you do win, but the limousine accident. And he was just like, his eyes got bigger. When I finished, he was like, you have to go make this movie.
So what year is this?
So this would have been about 2012 or so.
Which still 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah. And so, I started to go through that process, and it started with just writing letters to, anyone who I could find their address, what I assume was their address in the white pages. So, I write a handwritten letter to Stevie and Drapes, and Jim Lights was on that list. And fortunately for me, Jim Lights was in Dallas and I was in Austin. And I got a phone call one day, and Jim's like, hey, if you're really serious about this movie, like, why don't you drive up I-35 and let's have a conversation? So I drove up to Dallas, and I met him in his office, and I pitched him my vision for the film, and he was like, I'm in, kid, what do you need? I was like, well, I need to talk to the Wings, So Jim set me up with Kenny Holland and Jimmy Devellano.
So let me rewind a little bit, right? So from your idea sitting in the car, how long did it take to put, because you can't just go, okay, we missed the whole, putting the production, getting somebody to believe in you. How long did it take from 2012 to get, how did you meet, Jenny or Dan or whatever?
So let me,
are you doing interviews? So
I'm not doing any interviews yet.
But you're making the connections now to this, so we're not even there yet.
No, I'm not even there yet.
So you're just
I'm still with an idea and just enthusiasm. But it was that enthusiasm that, so that Christmas I come up, and Ken Holland and I actually meet here in Birmingham at a Starbucks. And, his daughter was Christmas shopping. He's like, you got as long as it takes her to finish her shopping and pick me up. Give me your pitch. And so I enthusiastically pitched him this film, and he finished the pitch, and he was like, anything I can do to help, I'm in, right? But that was like Christmas 2013, right? It wasn't until April 2015 that I moved home to officially all right, now I'm going to go pursue this. And in the interim between that, I was able to get a couple people in Austin to believe in me, in the project. We cobbled a little bit of money together, and we flew up for the Winter Classic because, hey, the Russians are going to be there. This is my one opportunity without going to Moscow to pitch the Russians themselves my idea, right? And so, a couple of weeks before the Winter Classic, I come up and I meet with Ken in the office, and he calls in Todd Beam, and I'll never forget what he says. He goes, Todd, this is Joshua. He wants to make a documentary about the Russian Five. I met him last year. He hasn't given up yet, so I think we should help him out. And so Todd sat down with me, and we went over what I had to do to get the credentials, and we got our credentials. And so at the Winter Classic, after the alumni game, we're in the locker room at Comerica Park, and Slava's the first guy I go up to. And, I pitch him the idea, and he goes, if you come to Moscow, I'll give you all the time you need. All right, cool. Pitched Kazi next. He didn't even need anything. He just like, I'll sign whatever. Yeah, I'm in. If Slava, Papa Bear's in, I'm in. Then I go to Sergey, and Sergey's like, well, Slava's in, cool. But if Igor's in, then I'm in. I'm like, oh, shit.
That's the way that's the
hierarchy. So then I pitch Igor, and he's like, all right, well, let me think about this, and let's talk, right?
Yeah, that's the professor.
And so for the next 2 months, it's this text tag back and forth, like, hey, Igor, you got time to talk? And trying to find a time where I could get him on the phone. And finally, I was like, man, screw this back and forth. Spent a whole weekend just taking the footage that we shot and pulling footage off of YouTube because I didn't have good quality, game footage yet. Slapped a teaser together. We were actually on a shoot for this other documentary, and we were at the hotel. I sent it to him as we're on the drive back from the hotel. We go out to dinner. By the time we get back from dinner, I have the signed documents, the releases from Igor in my email box. This looks great. We're good to go, right? So I'm like, cool. Now I got to get Sergey in the money, but I'm all set. And so I get Sergey in, but then I'm like, how do I get the money? And we start pitching everyone, and everyone in Texas is like, sounds like a great story about hockey.
Right.
I don't know anything about hockey. It was the Dallas Cowboys. I bet you check right here.
Market, right?
So it was actually, I met with Denise Illich here in Birmingham, and she asked me a question. She goes, why does a Texas guy want to make a Red Wings film? And I was like, no, I'm not. I live there now, but I'm a Michigander. She's like, okay. She's like, I don't know anything about film financing, but if you get this made, I'll do anything I can to help you get it out there, right? So I'm like, cool. I have that in my back pocket, right? So I think about it all weekend, and I'm actually at the Prince show at the Fox Theater. And while Prince is doing a solo of Purple Rain, I have this epiphany. I'm like, if I could find some way to make this movie where Prince is right now, that could be Vladdy, right? And the crazy applause that the crowd is giving for Prince would be for Vladdy. And if I just could find a way to make that, man, that would be just so important to me, that's all that matters.
So you saw it.
I saw the vision, and I made the decision there that moment at the Fox Theater while Prince was on his 4th encore. I'm moving home, right? I'm going to move back to Detroit. I'm going to throw all my eggs in this basket. So that was April. By June, I was back in Detroit. I had all my stuff. I put it in storage in Austin because I was like, well, I don't know if this is going to happen, but I'm going to give myself 6 months, right? 6 months to find the money. So that was June. In August, my friends Chris and Rob, who are awesome and have been helping us with the sizzle on your thing. They're like, hey, we've been working with this Russian producer. I think you should meet her. So they set me up with an interview or meeting with Jenny Fedorovich, right?
La femme.
Sister from another mister, right? And so
the boss.
I go to her studio, and she, I give her the pitch, and she's like, I love it. I'm in. I think I know who we can get the money from. right? She's like, I know one guy, and I think he might give us the money. But at this point, we're kind of like up against the gun because the whole idea is Sergei's Hall of Fame induction is in November, right? And if we can be there, that's the perfect place to start.
What month?
2015. This is August.
Okay.
So I meet her in August. We pitch Dan in September. In the middle of October, Dan's like, I'm in. Let's do this, right? And so we go to Toronto for Sergei's Hockey Hall of Fame induction. And we talk to Scotty Bowman. We get our first interview, right, of the film. And it's Scotty Bowman, right, which is like no pressure at all.
Now, did you bring in pictures?
We brought some pictures, right?
Oh, you did.
So,
So that's the first
that
inaugural
is the first
documentation of what would be. So
the whole process.
Talk about sitting down here.
Well, Scotty is notoriously difficult on reporters and all that.
Is he?
So, I'd been prepped for that. And he's like, his knowledge of hockey is it's just unfathomable. So, I just like throw up a softball just to loosen him up. Like, you tell me about the Russian style of play. Next thing I know, he's telling me about the Russians' third-line winger and the 76 Summit Series and all this stuff. And, so part of me is like, I know I only have an hour with him. So I'm like, I can't really use this, but I also can't interrupt him because he's Scotty Bowman, Yep. So you're just like, okay, cool. And I have to be ready for that next question, pull him in the direction. And so, it was nerve-wracking. Dan was in the room for our first interview. So, the money guy's there. He's watching over my shoulder. It's like, I can't screw this up. But Scotty gave us great stuff, and that was really what sent us off on.
How long were you there? How long was that interview?
That was about 45 minutes to an hour, I think.
Okay.
Right, about 50 minutes, actually, I think it was. And so, the interviews would average between 50 minutes and like 2 hours. Igor was our longest at about 3.5.
As it should have been.
Yeah, and so, it was an amazing process to have an incredible team together. That really, and we talk about teamwork and the way the Wings are playing right now, and that's the same way with making a film. Like, if I didn't have the great team behind me, like, my vision, my questions, none of that would have mattered, because if you don't have the right, you got to have the camera people in place, you got to have the sound guy in place, you got to have the producer help set everything up. I mean, there's all these moving parts.
I think that it's so true, Josh, and I think that one of the things is so beautiful about being able to sit down, as we were talking about before, is I was a part of that team, and I was like, from doing appearances and from going throughout, but also from going through a trip. So you saw you brought in some pictures.
Yeah.
So as the narrative sort of goes, that you started getting the interviews. And
so we did the interviews, and we.
And how long of this process? So is this? When was that interview?
So that was November of 2015.
So that was at the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that was at the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto.
Who'd you get, Neil?
So we got Scotty and Brendan Shanahan that first weekend, and it was just wow. To get those two guys in the can was great, and that really enthused Dan. So he was like, "I'm full in. Whatever you need, man, I got you." Right? And to have the executive producer say that is just like a huge weight off your shoulders. Because like, cool, now I can focus on my job, and I don't have to worry about nickel and diming. I don't have to worry about like, oh, can we go to? So for instance, I went to Glen Falls to interview Dave Strader, right? And actually, I brought a picture of that
great.
as well.
And anybody doesn't know Dave Strader was?
He was the voice.
The voice is his nickname, and the fact that he started out from down there and just a hockey voice, what a great man, and he's passed on.
And so I actually got the last interview he did, basically. And it was like a 2-hour interview, and it took a little bit out of him, but afterwards his wife and his son was like, that it meant a lot to him to just be able to finally share some of those thoughts on it. But like, if I didn't have Dan backing me up, like, a trip to Glen Falls, because it's like not a major destination, like that was a little bit expensive, and so the money you spend for one interview in a can, like that might not have been part of the equation. We might have had to say, well, if we could get him in Detroit, then we'll do him, but if not, but I don't have to worry about any of that, which is just like a weight off of my shoulders. So from November 2015 we shot, and basically we wrapped production late 2016, early 2017, we're in post. I think, You know, we interviewed Chris Osgood. He was the last interview. And I did that on purpose because, you know, I knew I needed someone who was going to give me, you know, good commentary. But I also, like, needed someone in my back pocket because until you start editing, like, you kind of know what you need, but you don't know 100% what you need. But at that point, we had 100% of what we needed still. And so it was like, all right, this is a checklist, Ozzy. You know, I'm not going to ask you every question that I asked Mac or Drapes or Stevie. I'm going to ask you what I need from you.
Yeah.
And
that's a great point out there for any, you know, young.
Yeah, save one of your great interviews for the end, so you can just knock off that stuff on the list. And then we went into post, and so that took us a hot minute, and we finally premiered at the Freak Film Festival in 2018, April. And you
Where
were there.
was that premiere?
That was at the Fillmore with the Freak Film Festival. You were there. Vladdy was there. Wayne Kramer was there. You know, it was this incredible experience where there's like 2,500 people at the movie premiere. And, you know, this is a venue that, you know, I grew up going to shows at. And, like, that's kind of how I started filmmaking. It was, like, filming bands and stuff. So, you know, I remember I shot Incubus and Primus there in, like, 2000, right? Like, from the balcony. And before the screening the morning of it, I'm like, I go to the same exact spot that, you know, 15 years earlier, I was just this little punk kid filming Primus and Incubus. But I'm like, are you going to fill this place for something I made?
Tell them how cool you are. Tell them how cool you are. What did Brandon from Incubus do for your 18th birthday?
18th birthday. My first.
Anybody who's an Incubus fan should be a bigger fan.
My first professional film gig was to go out on Ozfest with Taproot from Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
I turned 18 on the road, and for my 18th birthday, the boys in Incubus took me out to Dave & Buster's. They filled a gift card with $100. They all chipped in. We all played games, and then afterwards, Brandon made me like a personalized drawing that I have hanging up in my house, you know, to this day.
That's awesome.
But you know, that was the experience that told me, like, this is what I want to do with my life, which is see the world, see the country, see everything I can with the camera in my hand, right? But that was 2000, and now, you know, 15 years later, here we are, and we're about to kick off this incredible journey, you know. And making the film itself was this journey, but, you know, what I did not anticipate is the journey that the film would take us on afterwards, right? Where, you know, festivals were great. You know, part of us, there's a little chip on our shoulder because the major festivals didn't want a little hockey film, right? And there were a couple fests that took a chance on us, like Seattle. And, you know, Seattle is probably one of the top 5 American film festivals. They're incredible. And, you know, the programmers were like, well, we got a hockey team coming. Let's get these people excited about hockey. And what was amazing about that is, you know, we were in audience voting for the best documentary. We were in the top 5. So there's Mr. Rogers, 3 films that were from Seattle, and the Russian 5.
That's cool.
Right? So we didn't, you know, technically we didn't belong in that.
Right.
But the people loved what we did. And so, you know, after that we started doing, you know, the theatrical run where we, you know, our big theatrical premiere when we put in theaters was at the Imagine Theater, where you came out and Dave Coulier
There's
and Vladdy is there.
Looking pimp.
And
his daughter.
I want to tell Vladdy's story.
And there's Jenny in the white looking la femme. Jenny,
Steve Bannaton, the producer.
Talk high enough for her.
Oh,
Dave
Jenny's
Coulier.
incredible. You know, during that premiere, I had seen the movie a lot, so at that point, Jenny and I usually didn't watch the movie anymore. We just we'd hang out in the lobby, but Vladdy and Dave were in the VIP box.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to watch it with these guys. And what was really awesome is, like, you know, as a director working with an editor really closely, you craft the edits, right? And you're like, let's make sure this joke hits here, and let's make sure this emotional thing hits here. And so Dave was laughing at all the moments that we crafted for comedy. So I'm like, all right, no, cha-ching. Like, we got, you know, the funny man here understands, he's laughing, we hit that. But what I did not anticipate was the moments that Vladdy was responding to. And so, like, the first time Steve Eisman comes up on screen, Vladdy's just like, Stevie. And the first time Nick shows up, Nick. And the first time Don Cherry comes up, I don't know what he said. It was something in Russian. And
he said, fuck you, Grapes.
And his daughter, Anastasia, was just like, it's okay, Dad, it's okay.
Yeah, right. Because he probably went off.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm, like, really appreciating this. And then what I never anticipated is, so we went out of our way to get the Queen's "We're the Champions."
Yes, which is a well-known fact.
There was this whole, thing that all you guys told me this story about how that was Vladdy's favorite song. And, I heard stories about how, he would just sing it non-stop after you guys won. And when he was in the coma in the hospital, that was when it was played for him. That was when his vitals would tick up.
Yeah, he'd respond.
He would respond to it. And so, I wrote this letter to Queen and Brian May and the lawyers at Sony. It was like, I don't want this song because it's a sports film and it's the champion. I'm like, I need this because there's an emotional reason. So to our surprise, they were like, cool, we will give it to you for this price, which was like
pennies on the dollar, right?
For that song, a steal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't cheap by like the other standards that I was working with before, but compared to like what it should have cost, it was nothing. And so we're like, okay, cool. And while that song is playing at this premiere at the Imagine Theater in Royal Oak, Vladdy starts singing it with it along. I'm getting goosebumps right now remembering it. But like,
that's why you're here, bro.
I had to actually leave.
People at home.
I had to leave, and like Jenny and I had to do the Q&A afterwards. So for like the first 3 questions, I just threw it to her because I was still choked up.
Yeah.
And it was just like, shit, man. Like something I made and with my team has such a profound emotional impact on the person that had such a profound emotional impact on me. And it was this full circle thing,
Absolutely.
Right? And it was really, I mean, yeah, we won festival awards, and yeah, like, we were qualified for the Oscars. None of that compared to that. Like, that for me was like the moment.
You know what I compare that to? And yours is even on deeper when Scotty Bowman told me that I was his second favorite right winger ever to play with.
Right.
From. That's the greatest coach of all time. You get that, so you feel appreciated.
It's a human intangible,
Yeah, the compassion, bro.
Yeah.
That's why it all works, and that's why if you haven't seen the Russian Five and you want to get on the Twitter, but you talk about the journey and stuff like this, where the journey took.
So from Imagine Theater in Royal Oak, we go from there to we do a screening in Toronto, and Brendan Shanahan and Scotty Bowman come out, and I'll never forget that because this dude who just like he looks kind of looks crazy, shows up with a giant duffel bag full of God knows what, and he starts asking Brendan before the show like all this conspiracy stuff about the Bronco team that was the Humboldt Bronco team, and Brendan's like, what is going on here? And Scotty's weirded out, and Brendan's like, is there security? And it's a movie theater, so there's no security, but like the theater people are like, well, we'll call someone. But between them showing up, I'm like, I got you. I'll stand between you and be a buffer.
Oh, look at you, team player. Take the bullet for Scotty and Shanny.
That's the role D-Mac plays with me.
Right.
Anything happens, D-Mac.
To me, I was like, if you guys are going to make the time to come out, I'll take the time to whatever, try to tackle this crazy dude if he gets real crazy for you. But we did the Q&A, and that was incredible. And then, as we're winding down from the theatrical, and we did pretty well. We started doing this Oscar campaign, which was just very surreal to me. And as part of that, we did a screening in London. And while Jenny and I were in London, there was an opportunity to go to Israel. And I'm actually getting ahead of myself because before London, we were able to line up a Russian premiere of the Russian Five in Moscow. And so, 2 years earlier, when I was in Moscow filming these interviews with Sergei and the Slavas, I would have never imagined that I would be able to come back for this premiere, right? And it was incredible because it was the first time Sergei got to see the movie. And I'll be honest, I was nervous about how he would respond, And, here I am on stage with these guys, and I'll never forget this because I'm the only person on that stage that does not speak Russian, right? And so they asked me a question in English, and I answer in English, and then the moderator translates for the crowd, but then they start talking in Russian the questions, and Slava leans over and he starts translating for me, but he's, they say this, nothing important. Nothing important.
Slava. You don't need to hear that.
He's like, you need to know this. Bro. You need to know this, and then nothing important there. And we got a standing ovation, which, I didn't think much of it at first because, the movie had played all over and we'd gotten that. But afterwards, Jenny and Sergey were like, for Russians to emotionally engage with the movie, it's something we've never seen before because they're, very stoic people. So,
but you did to me, that tells you did such a fair, true job to what the story really was, that and especially as the American guy, all that it was about the human element,
right.
Like you said, about what this guy meant to you and how you could, pay it back.
Right. I once got to meet one of my filmmaking heroes, Werner Herzog, and I'll never forget that because first he told me I had a masculine, amazing beard, and then he told me I was a coward because I didn't have a fake ID. But then before I left the film school program, he told me, you understand the hearts of men. Dig into that as your filmmaking skill. Understand that and push that, and you can't go wrong. And so for Werner to say that, I'm like, cool. So,
dude, and that's deep too.
And so we're in Moscow and everyone's having a good time and we go to the after party, right? And I walk in and Sergey, who, beforehand he was like, are you nervous? And I'm like, no, we've done this many times already. Like, he's like, I'm so nervous, like, because he hadn't seen the movie yet,
right.
But afterwards he was no longer nervous.
No, he loved it.
And he had a bottle of cognac that he had and he starts, all right, let's a toast to you. And if you know anything about Russians, right, they love toasting. And so Sergey and I do like...
You're toasting until you're toasted, Spenny, and then you're toasted even more. Then they flip you over and toast you even more. Spenny could hang with the Ruskies.
Yeah. And so after the third toast, and I'm not really much of a drinker at all, so like I'm pretty toasted at this point. Sergey, he's like, oh, I almost forgot. And he asks his wife for something, and she reaches into her purse and she pulls out an envelope. She gives it to him, and I'm like, is he going to give me an envelope full of cash or something? Or is like, what is this? And he hands it to me, and it's a thick envelope. And he says, I've lost this 3 times in life. I found it 4. Now I give to you to keep it safe. And I open it up, and it is the letter. The letter that Keith wrote on behalf of Jim Lights in 1989 that was delivered to Sergey in the locker room in Helsinki that kicked the whole thing off. And Sergey had saved it for 30 years almost at that point, and he gave it to me to keep. And so you've got a copy of this.
Yeah, of course it's a copy. It's just like Stanley Cup rings. You can't let them anything valuable around DMAC except the Pop-Tarts, Spenny. We know that. But look at that. So that's the letter.
That's the letter.
That
let him know you've been drafted. This is your dream to play in the NHL is here for you. If you want it, and you can come over here.
Wow.
And so we got to really, bond. The only time in my life I've ever done karaoke was with Sergey that night.
What'd you sing?
Glycerine by Bush.
Oh, Glycerine.
I knew he was a Bush fan, so I suggested Bush, and then he picked the song.
Don't let the days go by.
Yeah, it was a pretty surreal experience. But, to get to share that experience with them was really cool. And then come back, and then we do the Oscar campaign, and that gets us to, while we're putting this together, an old friend of Slava's who, from the Soviet Union, but he lives in Israel now. And if you don't know the background, there were a lot of Slavic Jews from the Soviet Union who fled the Soviet Union, and a lot of them ended up in either Israel or, ironically, like Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, because there was already a pretty strong community there. So Lev, who would become our incredible host.
Shout out Lev if you're watching, bud.
Right.
Follow you on Facebook.
He reached out to Jenny and was like, I want you guys to bring the Russian 5 to Israel. And I'm going to bring Slava Fetisov. I want you to bring one of the American players. And at that point, because you had joined the team, Mac, and we like to think of you as like our trade deadline acquisition.
That's it.
Right?
I'm your primetime player, baby.
It was, right. Jenny and I were like, Mac, he's the only person we could even want there. So we all end up in Israel. and for a magical experience.
We do, and here's the thing, right? And I talk about it all the time, and I think you got pictures that you brought, and we were talking beforehand, is that we haven't, and there's Josh, myself, and my boy Aaron, who went with us. Is that the Dead Sea?
That is the Dead Sea behind us.
Down at the Dead Sea, I'm wearing a Israeli hockey jersey and stuff. But this is 2019, right? So we just passed over on like 3 years. But Josh and I were talking, is that because COVID happens right after we get back, everything gets shut down. We never really got to share any of this. No. And then, so, I mean, it was so cool.
Yeah. It really
so
was.
Cool. So talk about that experience. And
I mean, it was, that first night we're there, there was a brand new hockey arena that they wanted to christen with a game. So it was Team McCarty versus Team Fetisov, and you had your squad and Slava had his squad, and I think it ended up in a tie, right?
It did.
Which I think was the perfect way for that to go. And for me, it was super cool to watch you hold court with all these young Israeli hockey players, and like you think Israel and hockey, it doesn't seem, like they're in the desert, but one way or another, these kids learned about hockey and they really got into it. I remember kids telling you, like, I've watched your highlights on YouTube.
It blows me away. And, a little side note on that is that they're doing a tournament in March or something like this, and I got invited back, and just too much stuff going on. I couldn't get away for 10 days, but I always want to go back to Israel. That was one of my most spiritual,
it was incredible.
We did it. We went to the old Jerusalem, and allegedly maybe like somebody stepped on a skunk walking down the street, down in the old cobblestone. Did you have a picture? Did you put the picture of me?
We've got some pictures of Israel in there.
Yeah.
I remember you got to go to one of the oldest tattoo shops on the planet.
23rd generation.
Yeah. Get a tattoo there.
Yeah, that one.
I think we got the video.
Yeah, you do?
Yeah. There's there's one story. I wish I had pictures for this.
Oh, we got video for it?
Yeah, we got the tattoo video.
Oh, sorry. On the last one. So then it took it there, and so this is that. Would you say that was the end of the Whirlwind Tour?
Literally that was the end of the Whirlwind Tour, because we come back from Israel in December of 2019, and we actually had things lined up in the summer of 2020, but COVID came and had other ideas for us.
So let's just say like where we're at from there. So any the movement are there until now. I guess first talk about the movie is because I see it on streaming services, and I saw it on the plane. People watch it on the planes. So it's getting out there and stuff. But what is it with that, or what's next? Because just like Vladdy and stuff like this. Right. You yourself, and this is like the connection, is that are rehabbing, going through because of your back injury, but getting it fixed up. But just talk about like between that until now, what does this mean?
So, it's interesting because I started to have things lined up that COVID just completely just ended, and it was like not going to happen. And so it was pretty frustrating for a minute there. And then, what was crazy is the film itself, there's a division between like the people in Hollywood who look at it like, oh, it's just a little sports film, right? Versus the people who actually watch it. And so I was actually able to line up a couple gigs by people who saw the movie and were like, I want you to work on this thing. And there were a couple big name Hollywood people that I attached to direct a project with that, just when push came to shove, they didn't want to pay for the thing, and it is what it is, and I'm thankful for the experience and to learn. And
think the energy influence right there, Spenny. It's about the bag, baby.
Yeah, but the flip side of that is, being back in Michigan for the last 7 years, like, I wasn't able to be as active as I was in Texas, and so that kind of caught up to me, and I long story short, I found out that the surgery I had 15 years ago was not done right. And so I basically was living for the last 15 years with an unfused spine. And what that meant is that I started losing feeling down my leg last summer. And, and in hindsight, like, I'm thankful that those other projects didn't go off, because if they had, I would not have been in the position.
You wouldn't have the time to get it taken care of. So where are you at right now with that?
So I'm not 10, 11 weeks out from surgery, and I'm actually feeling pretty good. I'm in PT. I'm doing all the things that I need to do. Working on getting back to my pre-COVID weight and just condition of all that. But it's a process.
How about are you working on any projects right now?
Well, I am, now that you speak of that, because before I went in for surgery, you and I started shooting.
Oh, we did?
A sizzle for a project documentary on Darren McCarty.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're working on something to do with everything and more. We're incorporate obviously the journey and stuff like that. And so Josh's injury, he had to go on the IR, so that put a little on the burner. But the boys, we were watching a little bit. So
we're gonna be hitting that this summer, I hope. Getting it going. And for me, getting to know you personally, I think one of the things that is just like so underrated is the fact that what you're saying is it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, you get back up, and I've watched you live that. Baby. There were things that certain people said about Darren McCarty and his drinking days, and there were certain people on our team, I'm not going to throw them under the bus, though they probably deserve to be, that straight up tried to convince me that we didn't need to interview you. It would have been a mess. And, that person tried to lead us astray in a lot of ways. But it was so wrong. And I was fortunate, when we interviewed you, it was like the week of your anniversary of having quit drinking. And so it was, I guess what I'm trying to say is like the legend of Darren McCarty that everyone, brought up, I got to meet this person who was not that person, who was someone who was working on himself, and I was seeing the fruits of that already, and I've gotten to see the fruits of that in the last 4 years, basically 4 or 5 years, and I want to share that with everyone. I want to tell your story about what you went through to become a professional hockey player and all that, sure, but to me, I think what's the most interesting thing is you have just kept reinventing yourself and finding new ways to push yourself into new areas, and I think that's so unique. And a lot of people wonder, well, what do these professional athletes do after they retire? And some guys, like some of them working with the team, and some guys, you just keep reinventing yourself and finding new ways to push yourself, and I think that's pretty cool.
Well, after I didn't destroy myself, right? So, but here's the whole thing is that I couldn't think, and really, my thought behind it, right here, Spenny? Yep. Yeah, my thought behind it and all that, Josh, was always that I wrote a book in 2012, 13, my last fight to start Hockey Rockstar with Kevin Allen, who I love, that told my story. Well, that's 10 years ago and stuff, and it takes so long to write a book. I've met Josh since then, and I think that the evolution of technology, it makes sense to fill in the gaps of how we got here, how I powered through it, what I believe in, to the ones that cared, and the fans out there that are watching this. I love you and appreciate you. When I say I'm a battery and you guys are my power, this is for me to show you, right?
Yeah.
And to teach and stuff. So I think, and maybe that's the lesson, and you're gonna. People are people, but sometimes you need to take it in yourself, because I know that the legend, right, and some of the things I did that I'm not proud of, I can't change, but I'm not that person anymore. And that's where I think you have that team, like you talked about, building the Russian Five.
Yeah.
To be able to go forward. Where can people reach out to you or find you? Got you on the tweeters or the social medias?
I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook and all that.
Josh Riehl will put that up. Mikey, we can throw that up on the thing.
Yeah, I definitely will. But I actually had one more. We talked about the sizzle a little bit.
Yeah.
You sent me the video. Can we give the people a little?
You could give them a little taste of that for sure.
It's the long one, Spence. If that's okay with you two. Then we'll throw it up. Give them a little.
Give them a little taste of
sizzle.
that.
Give them a
sizzle of it. There, might as well. Yeah. We're about. Hey, we talk about. We be about it here on Chompin Podcast.
I loved it, so I want the people to see it. If we're that's cool by you guys.
All right.
Hey, is everybody having a good time so far tonight? You guys ready for the main attraction? This next guy needs absolutely no introduction at all.
It across to Corey Cross. John Cullen just hammered by Darren McCarty. Oh, was he ever.
Playing over 750 career games. 129 fights.
Away from the play. McCarty goes into the stands. Look out, baby. He's got that left loose. And he got it in right out of the gate. He switches to the right.
My name is Darren McCarty,
Look out.
four-time Stanley Cup champion of the Detroit Red Wings. But to me, that's sort of a past life. I'm also an author, comedian, musician, sportscaster, and cannabis brand owner. And most people might say you slow down in retirement. I tend to speed up. I've always been a wrestling fan. It blows me away that it never crossed my mind, even back in the day. The band has always been part of who I am. I don't care where it is, you let us plug in, and we're playing with each other, for each other, and be able to enjoy it. I'm not a comedian. I'm an entertainer, can we agree? Have I ever entertained you in the past? I do so many things because I got a lot of making up to do. Yeah, so a little bit of an intro.
That's
That'll be
awesome,
coming
man.
down the road. Josh, I can't thank you enough, brother. Stick around. We're gonna take a quick break here. I gotta always promote. Listen, we're a family here. My boy Spenmo racks every day, 5 to 7 with the other guy. Easy that we will always butt heads, but it's always love. Woodward heavyweights. Take a look at these. Some people call them the fat boys.
To make your haircut truly an experience, there's no better place than Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men. Come to any one of our 26 Metro Detroit locations for an award-winning haircut experience and qualify for a chance to win a down payment for your dream home up to $200,000. Our precision haircut and talented stylists will have you looking good, feeling good, and give you a chance to change your life forever. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
We aren't quite sure if they consume more beer or sports. Either way, the heavyweights are here. Live on Woodward Sports, daily 5 to 7 p.m.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
Welcome back. Thank you to Josh Riehl, the director of the Wrestling 5, for joining us. He's still sticking around, but this is our last section. We call this mailbag memorabilia.
Yes,
Mikey,
sir.
you got questions? Again, Chompin Puck at gmail.com. We want you to enter and throw in your questions, throw in your memorabilia stuff. But what do you got for us, bud?
All right, we got first question. This is for D-Mac. This is from Kyle Clicksby. What playoff series do you think you played the best in your career, and why? And who is someone during your playing days that you feel is underappreciated?
Wow, great questions. Probably the series might be, and its production, probably the Colorado Series Conference Finals 2002. I had 4 goals in the series, but big goals because I scored the natural hat trick in the third period, which when we were down 3-2, and then I scored in game 6 in Colorado the second goal to make it 2-0. So just because of the impact of that and being able to shut guys down, so that comes quick to my mind. Also, someone you feels underappreciated. Well, until he's in the Hall of Fame, it's Chris Osgood. So, don't get me going on that rant. We don't have time, but guys like that, guys that agree. Martin Lapointe was a big part, especially those 97, 98 cups and stuff like that. Guys who don't get appreciated as much were the Axe and Smash in 98 going against Washington, where Bob Rouse and Jamie McCown as the defensive pair to go against Craig Berube and Chris Simon and Dale Hunter, who like this was war back in the days, and these guys were warriors. So, as I'm talking it through, Bob Rouse, dude, and I remember he got in a stick swinging contest with Proby my first year, and I jumped in and fought him and stuff, but he had the strongest grip strength in training camp. He can do like 100. Like, he's so strong, dude, but what a great guy. And it was great to see him at the reunion.
All right, this one's for me. Up next, he said, Michael, how did you start covering the Red Wings, and who was an athlete you were in awe of meeting, as well as what's the best and worst part about covering the Red Wings? Well, I got started through school, and then with the help of this guy sitting next to me, as well as Tom Mazaway from Ermanni and Edwards, they kind of put the word in for me, and I've been running with it ever since. Who was an athlete you were in awe of meeting? If we're talking hockey, it had to be Nick Lindstrom, which I also met because of the man to the left of me. And if we're just talking basic celebrities, I would go Calvin Johnson or Turtle from Entourage. I was a big fan of him. I love that show. So he was someone that was really cool to meet and get to talk to. And then for our next question, this is Kyle again. This is his last and final question. This is to you, Spence.
Oh, shit.
Who is your favorite broadcast tandem? And also, do you feel naked without your beard?
No. Man.
And when are we sending Easy back to Sweden so that he can appreciate the greatness on the game of ice?
Yeah,
Okay.
by the way, that's Easy, his partner, who last year claimed that he's the greatest scout.
Swedish
the way he
insider.
talks about
Swedish
hockey.
Elite scout.
Yeah, Swedish insider.
So,
So Spencer, who is that? Who's your favorite broadcast tandem?
Man, that's tough. 'Cause
That's a loaded question.
In Detroit, we've been blessed with a lot of great tandems for broadcasting. All the sports we have, obviously Mario and Rod were great. Dan Dickerson, Jim Price. But I'm going to have to go with Ken Daniels and Mickey Redmond just because, they were my youth.
Aye.
They gave me everything. And Mickey Redmond is one of my favorite sports personalities ever.
Yes.
Ever. And so Mickey and Ken Daniels, they're just so electric. When I think, sports broadcasting, I think of Ken Daniels and Mickey Redmond. They're my favorite.
and what a great guy that we call him, the doctor.
Yeah.
Mickey Redmond.
And yes, I feel very naked without my beard. It sucks. It's coming back, though.
Any answer onto when Easy's
Not
going on his
soon
next
enough.
trip? Not soon enough.
And let me comment on where Mike and it's all about guys is taking an opportunity and running with it and keeping your ears open and doing the work and listening and trying to execute just like we're trying to do here. So he grasped the opportunity that was presented to him because, like I said, like we want to transcend Woodward Sports. If you hear it from him, it's sort of coming from me or when he says that where you get your information. But it's also too, you got to understand, it had to be the right person to go down and represent me in front of Steve Yzerman. And if you don't get that, that's where the test is, because you got to be able to take a lot of crap because he's going to fire it at me and Mikey's got big shoulders.
Yeah. All right, we got two and final questions. These are both from Charlie, and they're both for DMAC. What did the Wings organization do to keep significant alumni coming back, such as Yzerman, Lidstrom, Cleary, Draper, Cronwall, and not to mention Ozzie, Murph, and Howard doing broadcasts?
Well, you know what? And here's the one thing, and I can comment with this, is if you look at why I say hashtag Wiser Plan 1919, that encompasses everything, is because everybody that all those names you read off, whatever role they're doing in the organization, it's what their passion is, including me. Right? I'm the buffer. If I say I'm mayor of Hockeytown when I go in and do game day lives and do this season tickets and buffer because I want the fans. It's like at Woodward Sports. That's why I'm here, for the people, for the fans, to get it all together. So what is it? Because those guys are sick savages that love watching hockey no matter what. And I'm a sick savage that likes to do other things. So we're all doing what we want. Follow your passion, because it's the same thing that this is what they be doing. They're always talking the hockey and getting better, and they want to do it together, so it makes sense. They just put the team back together. It doesn't matter what era they played, they all have that passion.
Yeah. All right, so the final question, DMAC. Should we expect Steve Yzerman, you're going to love this question, should we expect Steve Yzerman will look to bring back the culture that your team's built with the Red Wings to build a sustainably good team? I believe yes, but I'd love to hear the input from you.
No, that's exactly what's happened.
Yeah.
You're already 3 years deep in this. That's why it's the hashtag Wiser Plan. Just look at it as that's the cement, right?
Yeah.
That's the glue putting this thing together. Like I always say, guys, Steve Yzerman will give the Wing Wheel Detroit Red Wing Nation what they want. Not when they want it, when he wants to give it to you. And when you can eat that, live that, whatever like that, then you can, that's where I live.
Yep.
And it's a great thing because you don't have to stress about it. Stress about something else. Like, God, did I turn that iron off or something like that, right? So...
we got memorabilia.
Yeah,
too.
memorabilia. So it's that's why it's mailbag and memorabilia.
Yeah, mailbag memorabilia.
So what do we got for memorabilia? We brought in yesterday, or last week. We told you send in chomppuck@gmail.com your memorabilia. We'll look at it. We'll talk about it. What do you got, Mikey?
We got like 3 pictures from 3 people, 3 different pictures. There's more, 3 slides rather. But these are just pictures that we are collecting from you guys, and we will eventually morph into one big video.
Let's take a sweet look at this. Timmy Armstrong.
Yeah, he sent a few, so we're gonna.
You got the Probies.
Your jersey was in one of the other pictures to the left. He's got a huge cave.
Dude, whatever. Their dog's named after me, probably. But look at that. I love the symmetry. What do you guys think of that? That's a pretty cool collection.
No, that's insane.
You know what it looks like? It looks like the one on the right is like when gonna go to Astronomicon, which I'll be at or whatever. It looks like the stand. Like you go in and you go, hey, what do you got there, bro?
Yeah.
What I would rate that? I would rate the first one.
No, those are just 2 pictures. Let me tell you, there was a lot more to that.
No,
like
I get
it would
it.
be included.
It's a tough crowd. The vetting process that you go through. So Tim Armstrong, I'm going to throw you 4 to 5 wings.
Yeah.
What do we got next? Some Hodge dude? Joe Hodge, I like that. Look at
the Valeno sign
the Valeno,
cards.
obviously a Valeno fan. How can you not be? Progress, not perfection.
The Stanley
I
Cup
love the
team.
Eisman Stanley Cups. Lidstrom there. I love the creativity, Joey. Thanks for sending it in, bud.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you four wing and wheels.
And we have one final one, and this is from a very special guest of ours, Tammy Chin. That is Mo Sider and Lucas Raymond sticks with their gloves.
That's our girl, Tammy.
Yeah,
Tammy's a D-Mac disciple. Tammy's flexing, small flex with whose sticks are those?
That's Raymond and Sider's along with their gloves. She's got
and the gloves?
Yeah, that's.
Tammy, dropping it right here. That's D-Mac style. That's a disciple.
She's got a bunch of cool pictures too that will be morphed into the video. We love Tammy. She's got so much good stuff. She's at like every signing. She is a collector of everything.
And she's a good one, obviously.
Awesome.
You could see, I'm sure she's in the chat saying hello. She's such a great supporter. We're glad that she got through her gallbladder and all that stuff and getting back at it. But it's the community, right? So trying to build this community that's already out there, whether like send who wants to be a part, of Chompin' Puck. I want everybody to know. So I would say to anybody that if you find Tammy Chin online or look at all the memorabilia, she knows how to direct you so you don't waste your time, right? Yep. So that I would use that as doing. I do as somebody that is very trustworthy and knows exactly what she's talking about.
Yep. All right. Now, before we wrap up, we just want to bring this up again. The Russian 5 DVD, we will be giving this away on our Twitter. All you have to do is follow me, D-Mac, and Chompin' Puck Twitter. We're going to have the poster. We're going to get that signed by D-Mac after that. So everything will be signed by D-Mac. Make sure you follow us. We're going to give that away.
Yeah, and check it out. You can obviously find it. Thanks to my friend and our guest, Josh Riehl. We're obviously going to have you back.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Do it. Bocce Boys, what's up? Shout out East Coast there. Spencer, you good? You got anything?
No, I'm good.
Absolutely. Michael.
That's a wrap.
For Michael Gentry, I'm Darren McCarty. We will see you next Saturday here on Chompin' Puck. Yep.
هلا في الديانة أنا أصوري ستايل هل واحد اللي واقف جنبه هذا؟ لا برا اللي برضه ما عندوش مع بعض هم الثلاثة.